this is it.
Welcome to Open House Radio with Howard Cohen. Open House Radio goes where no other talk show has gone before. To the limits, to give you the best advice on real estate investments and opportunities anywhere.
People think this is going to be the same old real estate show. We're the originators, not the imitators. Here on Open House Radio, we deal in all things real estate. And don't be surprised to hear us talk about our favorite resorts or do a restaurant or a beer review.
Be sure to tell your friends to stream live and get out your smartphones. You're going to need them for Open House Radio. Now, here's your host, Howard Cohen.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. It's a wonderful day today in San Francisco. We are here with you every Monday morning. No, I'm already off on 1 week. It's Sunday morning, 9 o'clock, Open House Radio time. We're here this week with our two favorite guests, Scott Basson, who is live with me in the studio this week,
morning,
our attorney
Howard.
in counsel.
Good morning, Howard. How are you today? And good morning, listeners.
Good morning. Good morning, Howard. Good. I'm really good. How are you?
Great. Excellent day.
Good. I always like to be here. It's my favorite thing to do all week, practically, I got to say. So I love talking to people. I'm going to give you the numbers right away to call. I'm also here with Jean-Marc, my partner, business partner, Jean-Marc Landau from ARC Funding. Jean-Marc, are you there? You're not in studio, but I hope you're with us today.
I am here, calling in from the Sonoma Coast.
Nice. How's it going up there?
Oh, it's foggy and beautiful.
Foggy and beautiful. Good. We like it a little bit
Staring
cooler.
out at the ocean.
Good.
I was Jean-Marc. I was there last weekend. I had a great time.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it was sunny, so it was fabulous out there.
Hey, do you guys travel all over the place? I'm always stuck here every week having, me, Kevin and I, we're here like every weekend, Sunday, 9 o'clock right here. We don't have anything else can't go away for the weekend ever. Can't go on vacation. We have to be here. But that's okay. That's all right. I like it. I enjoy it. This is what I love to do, as I said. All right, so let's get right into it. We're going to take, here's the numbers if you want to call in and get involved in our conversation at any point. The number is 800-516-1220, just like the number for the station. That's 800-516-1220. You can call in. And I always say at the top of the show in the intro, it says, get out your smartphones and put our numbers in here. And I think that's really what this show is about. If you're out there and you're listening and you're driving around and you're thinking, I want to get involved in real estate, I want to learn about real estate, and potentially, hopefully, they have some questions about financing, and unless they're in the business, it's an ever-changing thing, right, Scott? I mean, you've got
absolutely. Real estate is a moving target, and you need to always keep your eyes open and looking for deals, and also having your finger to the wind for changes in the way the laws are affecting your investments and the economy in general.
Yeah, there's been so many changes that are taking place all the time, and we're going to talk about rates and commercial loan rates and things like that, and some other stuff in the news about the finance industry and what's been going on there. We're also going to talk about some tenant and landlord concerns and issues, because most of the people that listen to the show are investors in real estate and own real estate, multifamily residential real estate, and we like to talk about that's one of our favorite topical issues on this show, is how do you maximize your investment with multifamily residential and commercial real estate.
And that's a real critical issue. Landlord tenant, you're looking to get as much revenue and income off of your investment as possible, and you've got to keep control of your tenant issues.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's, as I always say, that is the most costly issue, is costly expense for a person is vacancy. And, you've got a thing sitting there vacant, a unit, and it's just not good. I mean, that's costing you a ton of money, and it shouldn't. You've got to either, lower the rents, you've got to somehow get somebody in there to fill that place up by, whatever means, in order to take away that big expense. And then there's other things that we can do too. And sometimes that's not so easy. And that's why we talk to you about what some of the ways. I mean, sometimes you got tenants in there that won't leave, right? I mean, you've got problems with tenants, and that's a real big issue.
That's a tremendous issue. The starting point for any tenancy is your lease, and you have to make sure that you've got a good, solid lease. If you don't have a lease, tenants can go in and basically own your property and do whatever they want to, as long as they're not violating the laws. And the laws are very, very liberal toward what a tenant can do within your property.
Right, especially in California. I mean, we're here in San Francisco, but the show's carried nationally. People can be listening wherever, but I mean, each state has their own jurisdictional laws. But in California, they're not so friendly to the landlord sometimes, and you're trying to evict somebody, and you really don't want to get into that situation in the first place. That's what I advise people is don't even get there. You gotta first avoid that stuff, and that's the preparation and the stuff we're going to talk about when we come back. All right, we're going to take a quick break. If you have any questions about landlord-tenant issues, maybe you've had a tenant in your house that you can't get rid of, maybe you've had some questions about a lease that you want to know about clauses or putting things in the lease or what the laws are, give us a call at 800-516-1220. I'm here with Scott Basson, our attorney, and Jean-Marc Landau, our loan aficionado, and I am the host of the show, Howard Cohen, and we're here every Sunday morning with you at 9 o'clock. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Open House Radio on AM 1220 KDOW.
Morning, we are back, and we are here talking to Scott Basson about we're going to talk about some tenant landlord issues on 9/11. Today is 9/11, the 10-year anniversary of that.
I was listening to some pretty sad stories this morning on the way over, Howard.
Yeah, it's really made a big effect on our country, hasn't it? It's amazing. Well, anyway, hopefully we can. There were a lot of police on the bridge and stuff this morning. I noticed, that they closed off half the bridge and made sure that every 10 yards there was another police car.
Hopefully they're keeping the car bombers off the bridges.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why they're there, and they're doing a great job. So we appreciate that. All right, so let's talk about some tenant-landlord stuff, because, most of the people out there, they're not realtors, they're not managers of property, by profession, but they have units that they own. Maybe they own a single family home or a small units, or even, that's really more of the concern, I think, for people when they own small units and they don't have a management company, right? Running it.
Absolutely, Howard. And there's some very important clauses when you're putting your lease together that you have to make sure is in there. One very important thing is to limit the number of people that can occupy the apartment. It's not unusual for tenants to, if they don't have a restriction on how many people can live there, to sublet the apartment out and actually be making money off of their occupancy of your property.
Right, especially if you're far away, right? If you're not around, you can't see what's going on all the time.
Well, even if you're living right next door, if you don't have a restriction in your lease as to who can occupy that apartment, there's nothing that prevents them from renting it to as many people as the law will allow. And the law allows, if you can believe this, 2 people can occupy a 70-square-foot bedroom, and if there's other rooms, then you can end up having even double that amount. So if you got a small one-bedroom apartment, you can have 4 people living there, and that can really be an overcrowding situation.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of the wear and tear on the pipes as well. I mean, when you get a lot of people in a house, it tears the place up quickly. It really does.
Not only that, but you can have some pretty substantial water bills and other utility bills that you may be paying for. And that's another clause that you want to make sure you've got in your leases, is dealing with who's going to be responsible for utilities. Water and garbage, and water can be a real issue, particularly here in California when we have droughts. There's been some real high water penalties if you're not covered and you don't have the tenants being aware of what that's costing. So if there's any way you can pass that on to the tenant, that's a good thing for you to do.
Yeah, 20 years ago, the water wasn't such a big deal when you had to pay it. It was a few bucks a month, I remember. But, lately, the last 10 years or so, the DEWP has been raising it and raising it and raising it. And now it's a big expense. It's a much higher percentage, than it used to be. So if you have a question for me or for Scott or for Jean-Marc, give us a call at 800-516-1220. That's 800-516-1220. We're live here every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. This is Open House Radio. We're talking about some tenant-landlord stuff because, we're all trying to be landlords, I think, right? We'd rather be landlords than tenants.
Well, that's how you pay for your building, and that's where your investment makes money for you.
All right. So, what kind of things do? Let's talk more about this because I really like the subject. It's so we're talking about protecting yourself from letting people take advantage of you, right?
Exactly. And on that issue of how many people are occupying the apartment, other clauses that are important are restrictions on allowing the tenant to sublet to somebody. Now, it depends on what jurisdiction you're in. If you're in San Francisco, you've got to be very, very careful about the clause because the San Francisco Rent Control Ordinance actually prohibits you from blocking your tenants from subletting unless you've got your clause worded specifically and precisely in accord with what the rent ordinance requirements are.
And that's like a city thing, huh? That's
in the city of San Francisco, yes.
Okay, so
but
that's
there's other.
different. Yeah, then I'm sorry to interrupt, but I mean normally like you get a standardized lease from somewhere, and it's got in there. You're not supposed to sublet without the owner's permission. It's also got in there who's supposed to occupy the property. But what you're saying is that if you're in San Francisco proper or maybe some other jurisdiction and you don't have a certain added clause wording it specifically, you may not be covered against that.
That's correct. The clause would not be enforceable, and the courts will not allow you to evict if they're subletting if your clause does not conform to the local rent control ordinances.
Now let's talk about that for a second. Eviction. I know that's a huge problem for people. That's probably, like we were saying a few minutes ago, vacancy is your biggest expense. But in order to avoid that, you don't want to get somebody even worse than vacancy, probably is somebody occupying the unit and not paying the rent, because then you can't even lease it up to somebody else, right?
Not only that, you don't know what they're doing in there. They could be damaging the premises or doing all kinds of illegal things. I've had clients come in who've had me do evictions for them. People were growing marijuana inside the apartment, and I've had people raising pit bulls. There can be all kinds of scary things going on inside your property that can really cause you some problems. And if the tenants are doing something that's illegal and the authorities find out about it, they're going to come after you. They're not going to come after the tenant.
Right. Now, normally, I mean, I would advise people and have over the years that if they know about illegal activities going on, then they could be liable in some way for it. But is it true if they're unaware of it, or is there some way they can still be held accountable, perhaps, if they're unaware of what's going on?
Absolutely. If the tenant is doing something that violates municipal ordinances or even state or federal laws, the authorities, unless the tenant is doing something that is criminal that they can be arrested for, the authorities can come after the owner and force the owner to take steps. In fact, I mean, one of the most frightening things is on this issue of growing marijuana, the federal authorities actually have the power to come and confiscate your property, take it away from you, if they find out that there's illegal drug activity going on in there.
Now, if the tenant, I know everybody's got their legal cards and things like that now these days, which allow people to actually grow in their house, right? So is that true with a rental unit, or you have to actually own the property that you're doing it in, or do you know?
I believe that where that is with the drug enforcement laws is it's actually not legal for them to grow under federal law. But in certain jurisdictions, and San Francisco is one of them, the authorities tend not to enforce that law. And in California, it's only an infraction if you're possessing less than an ounce of marijuana. But the federal and state and local laws on these issues are all in conflict, and it's important for you as an owner to make sure that your property is not going to be in jeopardy as a result of what your tenants are doing.
Exactly. That's really true. Okay, so on that subject, how do we avoid getting into that situation to begin with the tenants? I mean, obviously putting those clauses in the lease are good, but they're not going to stop somebody from just signing something and then doing whatever the hell they want anyway, right? I mean,
right. It's really critical to do background checks on your tenants before you let them in. I mean, once you give them the keys, they basically have possession and they have control over your property. So it's critical that you do credit checks on them. And as well, you need to check with former landlords to make sure that there's no problems that there have been with these people in the past. Most credit reporting agencies will allow you to do eviction checks to see if they've ever had an eviction filed against them. and you want to check with employers as well.
Now, that's good points. I've found that in my experience with leasing, which has been pretty substantial, we find that, most of the time when you're checking all this stuff out, when you get their driver's license or ID, you run their credit and match all the things, you quiz them as to, credit these days, can be really crazy all over the board with people because of all the foreclosures and late payments in the economy and job loss and things. So, that's not always a great indicator necessarily as someone is coming out of a foreclosure perhaps, and they've had a lot of problems with their bills, trying to make their bills and maybe lost their job. Now they're getting back on their feet and they have to rent. So they may have, sort of bad credit, but at the same time, they may be good people. Right? Well,
that's really a judgment call that you have to make. You can look and see what their particular situation is. If someone's in the situation that you just painted for us, you probably want to be a little bit more flexible rather than finding somebody who's got 10 years worth of bad debt on their record and 5 or 6 evictions.
What I've always found is probably the greatest tip that I can give landlords. And you know what? I think I'm going to wait until after the break to give the tip. What do you say?
Sounds good.
I'll just wait till after the break. We'll come back and we'll talk because I like to do cliffhangers. It makes it fun for me. In the meantime, in a second, we're going to take a quick break. We will be here every Sunday morning with you at 9 o'clock. If you want to give us a call right now, be the first on. Come on, call us at 800-516-1220. You must have some questions out there about landlord-tenant issues. There's just a bunch of them all over the place. So give us a call at 800-516-1220. We're talking to Scott Basson. When we come back, I will give you my favorite tip that I can give landlords to help avoid eviction. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Open House Radio on AM 1220 KDOW.
Hip, hip. Hip, hip.
Good morning and welcome back to Open House Radio. We are here every Sunday morning, 9 to 10 a.m. on KDOW. If you want to get involved in the conversation and ask a question, we're talking about some tenant-landlord issues and real estate, as we always do. Give us a call at 800-516-1220. That's 800-516-1220. And you can talk to us live because we're live. We are really alive. Every week we wake up, we come down here, we work to help you learn as much as you can. And if you have any questions, then we want to know. So give us a call. We're talking about landlord-tenant concerns, and I'm here with Scott Basson. He's an attorney here in San Francisco and regular guest on the show every week. And I'm here with Jean-Marc Landau, who does loans, financing, and real estate. My partner and I do during the week in the office here in San Francisco. So we are experts in multifamily residential and commercial real estate and financing and the legalities regarding same. So if you have any questions, we would hope you give us a call during the week at the office, and then you can really take some time to consult with us. We have a number that we use that's a local 415-484-LOAN, 415 484-LOAN, 5626 is the number if you want to reach Jean-Marc or myself during the week. And if you leave a message there or reach us, we will obviously call you right back. We also respond to our email on a regular basis from people, and that's the letter, my email is the letter U, radioshow@yahoo.com. That's the letter U, radioshow@yahoo.com. And you can reach us on the web and all of our sponsors on the web on our website at openhouseradio.info. So check that out, and you can see some fun stuff on there. You can see me golfing in the extreme golf event that I did, and pictures of what our ugly mugs, I'll just say I'm the ugly mug, what it looks like on the radio, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see what we do over here. One more time, the number, 800-516-1220 to get online with us and ask a question. So, Scott, I was just about to tell everybody what my favorite landlord tip was, and we went to a break. So now I'm going to, hopefully if they've waited 5 minutes, it was worth it. What I've, in my extensive experience in leasing for owners and property management over the years, which is over 20 years experience, I found that the best tip that I can give a landlord in finding the top quality tenants is to lower the rent a little bit below the asking normal market rent for those units. And the reason I say that, not because of the condition of the property, but it's got multiple benefits to it. Number one, if you say the rent's like $1,200 on a unit or something, if you lower it to say $1,150 or $1,100, and now instead of getting, as opposed to say charging more, like some people are trying to get $1,250 or $1,300 or $1,400, that's not really in the market. They're trying to get the most possible rent for it, and then what they do is they sit vacant for a month, and then they have to lower it because they didn't rent it. So they cost themselves like, $1,200 or $1,300 at least for 1 month vacancy, maybe even two. And that basically equates to $100 or $200 a month in rent on a course of a year. So if they would have just lowered it right away to a price that was reasonable, they would have had two benefits. Number one, they would have rented the place up quickly, which would have then, in the end of the year, basically benefited them with higher cash flow on the property by not having the vacancy. And secondly, the quality of tenant that they got is going to be much higher. So that's going to alleviate future problems and future vacancies. Because what happens is if you try to charge too much for the rent, you end up with a lot of people lined up that have terrible credit, that are willing to pay almost anything to get in there because nobody else will take them. But if you're charging lower than market rent, you get a bunch of people that are good choices or better choices that you can then make your choice as a landlord of which tenant you want. And those are the people that are going to stay in your unit and pay the rent every month.
Not only that, Howard, but you've got the opportunity of picking and choosing through a larger, out of a larger pool of prospective tenants.
Exactly. Right. It's much preferable to charging too much and then ending up having to lower your rent, chase the market down. And that goes with any kind of a sale. If you're charging too much in the beginning and you're chasing the commodity market down, it's not going to benefit you in the end as much as if you just sold it quickly.
Right.
So
I wanted to mention one other issue regarding security deposit refunds. There's a new law here in California that requires a landlord, if you have any intention of withholding portions of the tenant's security deposit when they move out because of damage to the property, you now have to give them a statutory notice of a pre-move out inspection to be conducted within 2 weeks of them returning possession. And if you don't do that, it's illegal for you to withhold any money from that security deposit.
That's in a state law now,
that's a state law now. All of California.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's a big change, and that just came this year.
Just recently, yes. It's a critical change in the security deposit law that most landlords are not aware of, and if you don't pay attention to that, the penalties can be substantial. They can make you pay back 3 times the security deposit to the tenant if the judge or the courts determine that you're withheld any portion of that in bad faith.
Wow, that's really huge, and that could affect, especially on places that either take large security deposits from tenants or multi-unit residential places that have a lot of units. We're going to talk about a place. I think, Jean-Marc, we have a unit we're going to talk about, mention when we come back after the commercial in a minute, right?
Yeah, though, I have a question for Scott. What happens if in the move-out process there's damage?
Well, the law does provide for an exception that if there is damage that you were not able to see when you conducted the inspection, but you actually have to make the list and hand it to the tenant when you do the inspection, the list of things you're proposing to deduct. And then if something happens in between then and when they move out, it becomes a spitting match as to whether it happened before or after and whether you properly went through the drill of giving them the notice. But if you've done everything you're supposed to, at least you can say that, okay, I gave them the notice, here's the list that I gave them, and this happened afterwards. So it looks as though at least you're doing your best to act in good faith and abide by what the law requires.
Okay, great. I also wanted to touch on something a little bit different. We were talking about leases earlier. There are many leases that you can get, form leases that you can get at office supply stores and online. And those may be generic leases that are essentially valid across the United States, but especially in San Francisco or other areas with rent control in particular, it's critical to have a lease that's a little more specific to the area. You can either get it from your local apartment association or from a local attorney. But I've found in the past that if you don't have the exact correct wording for your jurisdiction, the landlord is pretty much always the one on the losing end of that.
You're right about that, John Mark. The courts, the courts and the sentiment in California has been fairly anti-landlord, and it's been progressively moving that direction for the last several years. So it's important that you protect yourself. And the laws still are there to protect you as a landlord, and they're not trying to drive everybody out of the market. But you got to be careful.
Yeah, but I mean, we've all heard horror stories, right? I mean, we all have clients. Hopefully not too many, and hopefully not us. But I mean, we've all had a lot of situations, right? I mean, right? I mean, you know some.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's many situations that I've had to deal with over the years in trying to recover possession and from tenants that have really caused some problems and caused damages to people's property.
What's the normal time it takes to evict somebody from a place if they don't pay the rent? I mean,
well, you know,
give them a 3-day notice, right? And then
the easiest process is for non-payment of rent, and I generally tell my clients that it'll take a minimum of 6 weeks. It can take sometimes up 3 or 4, maybe even 6 months.
Is that if they like file a bankruptcy and file a hardship and things like that?
There's lots of little tricks that they can pull. I actually had one case where the tenant removed the eviction case up to federal court, and it took us several months to get that kicked back down.
We hope not too many tenants are listening to this right now, right? We don't want, if you're a tenant right now and you're not a owner, just shut the radio off, please. We don't want you to hear this now.
There are lots of really silly things that can happen. Also, I had one. This was back in the early '80s when I was this was my first or second building that I was working on. I had attempted to do an eviction on my own for non-payments, and I missed the little 6 points type little box I was supposed to check. I have a written lease, and I wrote written, and I missed a copy of which is attached. I attached a copy of the lease, of course, but I didn't check the little box that I didn't see. And that let the tenant stay in there for an extra 2 months for missing one tiny little box.
Well, on that issue, that's another real problem you've got in doing your own unlawful detainers is that if there's anything wrong with your unlawful detainer pleading or the papers that you filed as a landlord, you can end up spending 6 to 8 weeks getting yourself in front of a judge, and then they'll kick you out. Because unlawful detainers are statutory and they have to be done precise. And, for example, when you're doing your 3-day notice, if you don't state the exact amount of rent that's due, you can go in front of that judge and you can lose because you told them that the tenant owed you $780 when they only owed you $750. So it's real critical that you're careful with that. And you get good legal counsel when you're doing those.
It pays pretty much to hire somebody to do the eviction for you, right? Unless you're a manager or an attorney, you pretty much need somebody else like an attorney like you to do it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It makes sense. I mean, that's why we and it doesn't. How much does it run usually? $500, $600, some $1,000. I mean, a range.
I charge $300 an hour for my time, and it depends on what the tenant does. So I think you're going to be pretty hard pressed to find an attorney that's going to give you a flat rate on an eviction.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't really know, luckily, because I just do it myself. I just go pull the hinges off the front door and take the front door off the house. So it works really quick.
Careful, Howard.
and that will get you arrested, Howard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody. No, I'm kidding. I'm just teasing about that.
No, I mean, even for a rent increase notice, I would recommend using an attorney. If in San Francisco, if you do your rent increase notice wrong, you can be liable for multiple times the increase that you've paid over the X number of years. I mean, they can come back 5 years later and say this rent increase notice from 1995 was done wrong, and now all of a sudden the landlord owes tenants tens of thousands of dollars.
That's right.
It can get sticky. Yeah, it really, really
Very
can.
sticky.
And as I said earlier, California is not the most landlord-friendly state. I mean, I happen to know I've owned properties in Texas and Arizona, and I know that the eviction process in those two states is a lot easier than it is in California. I mean, basically you call the sheriff, the judge, whatever, tell them they didn't pay, and if they don't get you the rent pretty quick, they'll just go and throw their stuff out of there like almost immediately. Less than 30.
Not in California.
Yeah, not California. California is a whole different story. So if you have any questions or you have any comments or horror stories of your own, you can give us a call right now at 800-516-1220. 800-516-1220. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more. We're going to do some inventory. I want to talk about a couple of properties that we have available and give you an idea of what we do to help people invest in real estate, because that's what we like to talk about is real estate investment. This is Open House Radio. You're listening to 1220 KDOW on Sunday morning at 9. It's Howard Cohen, and we'll be right back. You know what that means, Steven?
It's time to buy CDs, Howard.
That's right. CDs, DVDs, new and used. And where do you get them?
The best shop in California, Amoeba Records. The only shop in California that matters when you're talking about shopping for good music.
That's right. It's probably one of the only ones left, and yet it's the best one. So, who cares about the rest?
So we got San Francisco Amoeba, we got Berkeley Amoeba, we got Los Angeles Amoeba. My band Jane's Addiction did a concert at Amoeba in Hollywood, unannounced, on their stage. And after the show, I went and shopped and got some Olivia Newton-John and some Rod Stewart records.
And they're so cool over there, too. Like when you call over there, the owner of the store answered. One day I called over there, she actually answered the phone herself.
Yeah, they love music, and they love helping people find good music.
If you need any help with anything, you just ask somebody there. They got guys that are the most knowledgeable, guys and girls, I should say, that are the most knowledgeable in their industry and about the different music. And if they can't find it for you, they'll find somebody else that can,
That's
and
true.
they'll help you out. They're really cool about
And
that.
that's Amoeba Records in Los Angeles, in Berkeley, California, and San Francisco. They're helping us bring music to you on the American Rock Exchange, and we want to thank Amoeba, and I want to shop at Amoeba. I want to kiss it, hug it, and love it. Amoeba Records.
You're listening to Open House Radio on AM 1220 KDOW.
Just relax and float upstream. Oh, downstream, not upstream. Float upstream. Try it. Sometimes it's a little different. It works better sometimes. We are here every Sunday morning, and we're going to talk about some inventory. We have some great sponsors on this show. We have some wonderful partners that we work with, and we like to be a resource for you. We've only been on the air here. This is, I think, our 5th week in the Bay Area. So it takes a little time for the listeners, I know, to get to know us and for people to listen to the show, hear it a few times, and realize, hey, we should call those guys and talk to them and see what's going on and, get some free advice. Because it is free advice, basically, and you can get some really good information just by listening. But if you have a specific question and you have a topic that you'd like to discuss, having to do hopefully with real estate, then we're happy to talk about it. So you can always give us a call here at 800-516-1220. We welcome to talk to the listeners. You can also get us on the web at www.openhouseradio.info. And you can also link to any of our sponsors and partners from there and see what we're all about. And you can also catch some of the other archived shows that we have online. So if you just go on the website, openhouseradio.info, and click on the little box on the left there that says archives, you'll see all the shows will pop up that we've done, and you can listen to the different versions and see if there's something that catches your interest. In the meantime, we also can get a call during the week, and we like to sit down with people during the week at our office and discuss things in more detail, because you can't always cover everybody's issues over the radio. So if you have a question during the week, give us a call there. The number, if you want to take it down, put it in your phone, as I always say, is 415 484-LOAN, LOAN, or 5626. That's 484-5626, the local 415 prefix. All right, we're going to talk, Jean-Marc and I, we're looking at a property this week. And I want to. Maybe I'll talk about my little house first, because I know, Jean-Marc, you're gonna want to talk the whole time about that other property. So,
actually, I just wanted to throw one thing out before we leave leases. We've talked about residential leases, and we haven't talked about commercial leases at all.
Okay.
So maybe we could leave that for another show. But it is
that's a whole big topic in and of itself.
It is a whole big topic. Yeah. But I just want to mention, we are not just about residential office leases, and retail leases are critical, and we'll cover that in another show.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, Jean-Marc, commercial leases are generally 3 to 4 times the size of residential leases.
Oh, yes, and I've had experience that the exact wording on each one is absolutely critical. I'll tell you stories on another show, but.
Well, that's good, and we're here to bring our experience. We've all had 25, 35, 40 years. I don't know how many years. I'm not that old, hopefully, but we've had over 25 years each experience in this business, and it's very complicated, and things change constantly. So you gotta stay up on it and figure that out, or you're going to get burned, especially if you're spending lots of money and investing in things. Okay, so quickly, I want to tell people I have a house that I can sell you for $35,000. It's an entire 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. You can buy the whole house with the land and the trees and the porch and the nice roof and the new windows for $35,000. It even has tenants in the house that are paying $700 a month. So at $35,000 with $700 a month coming in, you're looking at approximately about a 17, I believe, % return on your investment, which means you'll be paid off in about 5.5 years if you were to put all cash. Now, 25, 35.
That calculation at 17%, you're taking the 700 rent and you're taking out the expenses first, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, you're right, because it would be a little higher, I believe, otherwise. But yeah, you got to figure a certain percentage, and as we said earlier too, it's a little lower in residential single family home than it would be maybe on a larger property, because you don't have to do some of the same things. But you got to figure in all the expenses. And either way, I mean, if you can get it right now, what are you getting in your bank CD?
1%.
1%, right? And what are you getting on any? Sorry, Jean-Marc, what?
No, if you get 1%, I've seen 0.25.
Yeah, for the shorter term, yeah. Right. So, I mean, it doesn't make sense to put your money there when you can take it out and put it somewhere where you can actually make. Now, that return would be if you paid cash. But we were going to mention this anyway, so let's talk about this. Leverage, you could always take a loan even on those properties and put out even less cash and still cash flow the property and make a really, really strong return on your money. And we have another property that we were going to mention that's, a 100-unit property?
Well, there's a 100-unit property. Let's stay on the leverage and the single family for a minute, because there is, in the market today, there may be another dip. There may be a further erosion of prices, but there's not a huge amount left to lose in value. And the bottom line is, if you're buying a property that cash flows, so many people are avoiding buying or can't buy because of the tight restrictions on financing. There is a very, very hot market for tenants. So the rental markets in most markets is very hot. Vacancy rates are down. And you can buy buildings, you can buy houses, single-family houses in the Bay Area and beyond that cash flow. And that is really a first for the Bay Area. I have one client right now who is buying a series. I know we can do 10. We may be able to do 20. Fannie Mae Homes. When you buy a home from Fannie Mae, they have this wonderful incentive program. They give you a Home Pass loan where you can buy a non-owner investment property for 10% down. And if you look at any other loan program, you need 30% down.
Yeah, that's unusual. That's really low.
It's really cool. So this particular client is buying in Sacramento. We just bought several. in the $150 to $175, $180,000 range. But let's say you buy a $160,000 property, you put $16,000 down. Your net cash flow, I mean, the rents are between $1,400 and $1,700 a month. So your net after all expenses is about $700 a month.
Wow.
You're netting $700 a month on a $16,000 investment.
That's crazy, right?
That's about a 35% return.
Right. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And when you say something like that, the phone should be like, woo, you know, everybody should be like perking up when you say that, right? I mean, that's...
They should. I
mean,
a lot of people, I have clients sitting on cash, and I tell them about this, and I go, whoa. I have people sitting on, hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity in the house. They, but I like having my house paid off. Absolutely, it's a great feeling. And if you can borrow money today at 4% and make 20 to 25% on it, and stay conservative. I mean, stay well within what you can afford on a monthly basis. You're getting that's 4% tax subsidized. You're getting until they mess with the mortgage interest deduction, which they're looking at, but I'm not sure if it's going anywhere. That 4% is you're paying even less than 4% on your money, and you can make 20, 25, 30% return on very basic single-family homes that are available everywhere.
Exactly. That's well said. And in order to get those and to sign up for the investment hot sheet, which we can give them, and to show them these different properties, give us a phone number, John Mark, and I'll give us a website and an email, because we're going to wrap the show up here in the next 2-3 minutes. So we want to make sure everybody writes down the info where they can find out about this stuff, and then we'll talk more during the week about it with them.
Okay, so during the week, call us at 415-484-LOAN, 484-5626. That's 415-484-5626.
And we'll be able to show them, these are real properties. I mean, we're not just like blowing smoke here. We actually have inventory that we pick up every single week, and we bring it out to people, the listeners of our show, first. And this is stuff that's not on the market in a lot of cases. It's maybe just something we found through our extensive research. And I like to say we do the paddling for you, because, when you're surfing the web or surfing in the ocean, the paddling is the hard part, the looking and the paddling and getting out there. You just want to do the surfing. And so we do the paddling, and that way we send the properties that we found, which takes an awful lot of time and effort, that are the best ones, to our listeners to turn them over for investment purposes. So give us a call during the week at 415-484-LOAN, LOAN, and catch us on the web at openhouseradio.info, or you can also get investmenthotsheet.com, investmenthotsheet.com, if that's easier, and then you sign up, and it's free, and we'll send you the property and give you a call. Scott, give us your info real fast,
sure,
because I have one more commercial to do quickly after this.
Sure, Howard. You can reach me during the week at 415-753-5245. That's 753-5245. You can also get me on the web at www.bassinlaw.net, BASSINLAW.net.
Excellent, thank you. And you should definitely go ahead.
Howard, you had mentioned the 100 unit. I just want to give a 15-second quick hit on that.
Okay.
This is 100+ units at $30,000 a unit. Again, it's a great find. It's a slightly bigger deal. We're looking for about $1 million invested on this. So this can be syndicated. It can be several people together, or if you're looking for a single, to be a single investor in there, you're welcome to call us. The return on that is somewhere between 20 and 25% for the first few years. After 2 years, you would refinance and pull pretty much all your money out. This is a bank-owned property that is probably 50% vacant. It needs to be turned around to qualify for a bank loan. Once you pull your money out, then the return is quote-unquote infinite.
Yeah, that's a beautiful property as far as the cash flow, the return, and everything. And it is bank-owned, so people want bank-owned stuff, real stuff. That's it. That's a good one for us, and it's local up here in the, it's not too far away from the Bay Area. All right, 2 quick commercials that I want to do for our sponsors. One, Kangen Water. Waterforenergy.com. He's a guest on our show, Robert, and he'll be on with us shortly. Robert Gridelli. He's a wonderful guy. He talks about health benefits of alkaline water, and you really ought to listen if you catch him. But in the meantime, go on his website, water, the number 4, waterforenergy.com. Sorry, I said that wrong. It's waterforenergy.com. And the other wonderful place that I like to talk about every week and is a great sponsor of ours is the Velvet Margarita Cantina. And they are in Hollywood on Cahuenga Boulevard between Sunset and Hollywood Boulevard. I go there pretty much every week or two. I'm down in L.A. I always go there for dinner. Tell Carlos, Big Daddy, and his wife Ava that you came from Open House Radio. But if you go to L.A. and you're going to be down there for a couple days, definitely make a stop at Velvet Margarita Cantina. It's well worth it if you're up in Hollywood. So check them out on the web. You can also, as I said, get us on the web, openhouseradio.info or investmenthotsheet.com, and we can send you out the information on all the properties. This is Open House Radio. We are here every Sunday morning, 9 a.m., and we'll see you next week.